What up, it's your boy Drama, and we're back again. First true video of 2026. Welcome, I'm so happy you guys are here. So, I finished Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, long-awaited game. Ever since 2017, we know the story by now. Announced at E3 2017, rebooted early 2019, radio silent, until a faithful Nintendo Direct in 2024. And of course, we finally got the release this past December 4th, 2025, on both the Nintendo Switch and, as most of us predicted, even when it was just the rumored Switch 2, or whatever the dev kit name was, I forgot, it's been a while now, Nintendo Switch 2. So, I finished the game, and when I did have some thoughts, like I'm sure most everyone else did playing the game. Overall, I did enjoy it, but I actually want to go over my full thoughts, the kind of the good parts, the bad parts, and one part that I will say is mixed, and I will definitely get to that part, and just stick with me for the whole video here. Now, a couple other things. One, this is not a formal review. This is more so just me wanting to try something new with games I complete, and it'll be a more informal, more of a stream of consciousness type of video. You'll see, the B-roll on screen here, and two, I'm not gonna go into explicit story-based spoilers. I'm not gonna do it. Now, what you will see though with the gameplay, you will see Samus with all of her abilities, or at least most of them, depending on the point of when I recorded said footage. So you will see some abilities, you will see potentially some different characters and cutscenes. You will also potentially see Samus's suits, so keep that in mind. But there will not be any story spoilers. There will not be the final run to the final area of the game. We're not going to do that. So with that out of the way, let's get right into it. So the good. Overall, this game is visually beautiful. Like, it's Retro Studios. I can definitely tell this is, it's got some old blood there that made the original trilogy in the 2000s, but I can also see that they've gotten some new blood, After the game was rebooted in 2019, for those of us who were just online, we pretty much heard nothing but we saw nothing but new job postings from Retro Studios, constant job postings for what felt like over 2 years, maybe close to 2.5 years, I'm not sure. It just seemed like that for a while, but I do see now why. Game has some amazing visuals. The cutscenes are super well done. Probably the best graphics of any first-party Nintendo game, bar none, at this point. Clearly. This is kind of what Retro Studios is great for. They just have a really sharp, they just know how to get you into these unique, immersive, sci-fi worlds that feel, both Metroid and in some cases Alien, depending on where you're at. Samus controls the best she's ever had in the Prime games. And I'm not just saying this because this has the new buttery smooth performance mode, which is 1080p, 120 frames per second on the Nintendo Switch 2. Unfortunately, the Nintendo Switch 1 does not have that mode. I think it just has one mode. I believe it's just, closer to 1080p and just 60 docked, and probably 720p, 60 frames handheld. But I'm sure it looks really good for the hardware too. But yeah, she controls fantastic. As I'm sure some of you all have seen on the channel, I did a mouse controls showcase where I played the first hour roughly of the game itself with just mouse controls, so you can get an idea of how it looks and runs and everything. And you'll see a tile card up there if you're curious about that. But I would say I played about 70% of the game with mouse controls, and then 30% with the split Joy-Con, kind of emulating the Metroid Prime trilogy releases of the original trilogy. So basically with the Wii pointer controls, and it works pretty well there too. I will admit though, you will have to kind of reset sometimes, because the Switch Joy-Cons, Switch 2 Joy-Cons, they use a gyroscope. They don't use a pointer sensor. It's not like an IR pointer, like infrared. It's nothing like that where you have a distinct point to aim and orient your controller so the motions are appearing accurate on the screen. This still feel accurate too, but since there's no direct anchor point, like a sensor bar, like the Wii and Wii you could use, it generally can kind of get out of whack sometimes. So like sometimes what I'll do is I'll just jump in the morph ball real quick and jump back out, and that will reset it in a sense. So it's a bit weird in that case, but I think I got it in the way where I was able to reduce that as much as possible. Mouse controls are phenomenal though, like very responsive, both in quality mode, which is 4K 60 frames per second, and the aforementioned performance mode at 1080p 120 frames per second. What I would recommend though, I would, if you honestly even you know what? No, I would definitely recommend the 120 frames mode for performance, just because it feels like one-to-one. Like, it just feels so smooth. It feels like you're playing any first-person shooter on a PC, and the controls it's very intuitive. It's very good. I can tell they put in a lot of work in this aspect of the game. So kudos to Retro Studios and all the other teams that, you know, might have QA'd or helped out with developing that. And it works perfectly for it. One thing I would recommend, if you are interested in trying the game with mouse controls, whether you're just like playing the whole thing or just dabbling in it, you can remap your buttons. So I would suggest, since it should just be for right-handers. I'm sorry, left-handers. I don't know if there's a left-hand mode or not, but for the right Joy-Con, I would recommend keeping ZR, the main trigger, as your arm cannon itself, like your power beam and everything. And then you set R, the shoulder button, to your missiles. That felt really good for me. I think by default, Y or X is the missile button, but that feels a bit odd when you have it tilted to the side. But overall, it played really well. Pretty much went through all the areas in mouse control mode, did all the bosses in mouse control mode. So yeah, it's fantastic. I love that this is such a unique thing to the Switch too. Some other things I really enjoyed about the game, some new uses for old upgrades. I won't go into deep specifics, but some of our Morph Ball abilities, which they're pretty much the ones you expect from the games, aren't in here. But since we have this psychic element where, you know, you can kind of like whip yourself on like a little psychic anchor line, and you can use that to get up certain areas or kind of use a specific spider ball track to kind of cling onto certain parts of the walls. It's very familiar, but I think they use it in some smart ways that kind of makes it not only a bit different than previous Metroid Primes, but kind of visually cool too. You know, it just looks kind of cool. It gives you more reasons to look at the spectacle. One other thing I really like in how they handle the weapons in this game is the elemental shot, as we're calling it. So, you know, each Metroid Prime, you know, Metroid Prime 1 very much mirroring Super Metroid in a lot of ways, because, you know, it was like the next major Metroid game at the time, and Jump to 3D had everybody skeptical back then, but we know that game is a banger and came out great. But yeah, this game, they handle the other beams where it doesn't take over your arm cannon shot completely, like, you know, like Plasma, Ice, Wave Beam in Metroid Prime 1, or the Light and Dark Beams in Metroid Prime 2, nor does it completely stack over it. Like in Metroid Prime 3, you'd have your Plasma Beam over your arm cannon, your missiles become Ice Missiles, so on and so forth. This one, you pretty much always have access to your Power Beam, and your arm cannon, and the missile button becomes the shot. So you get the elemental shots in the game. That's what they call them. They're just called shots. You get the fire shot, you get the thunder shot, you know, stuff like that. But they have it there, so you can pretty much use your regular power beam and those at the same time, which I think is pretty cool. And when you charge them up, you don't charge with the power beam button like any previous Prime games, and you know, then you will press your missile button to fire, like the strong version of that. You essentially will just be able to hold down that same missile button and fire it from there, and those look really cool. Like for those of us that really were into like the animations of charging your weapon, your different beams and whatnot, and seeing the effects on Samus's arm cannon, super cool, super cool. Love it. But yeah, those are really good too. Some of the best music in the game, I swear. Some of the later areas, especially after you leave the first section called Fury Green, oh man, the music is amazing. I think we had the original composer come back in addition to another person to come back, so, or just with it in general. No, I think she came back. I think she was with Metroid Prime 3, but Yeah, the music is fantastic. It really is good. Now, I did enjoy the Lamorn lore and the world building as well, despite the world feeling kind of small in comparison. We'll get to that soon in another part. But I did enjoy kind of their story. It's kind of a tragic story, you know. It's tragic, but I kind of enjoyed it for what it was, and it kind of reminded me of Metroid Prime 2 Echoes a little bit, in some aspects a little bit, though not quite as happy of an ending as Prime 2. But overall, I think it was cool. I think it was interesting to hear, you know, each area had its own purpose in this world, and why, you know, the Lamorn race was in that area developing things with their technology, with their psychic abilities. Definitely enjoyed it. Some a bit more than others, but overall very cool. And those areas, some of them do feel very familiar compared to Metroid Prime 1, I'll be honest. It was like even certain upgrades you'll get in certain biomes are familiar, which kind of made me chuckle, but it's all good. It doesn't really harm the experience or anything. Alright, now here are the things I find good that I think some may disagree with, but you know what? It's my video, it's my views. Let's get to it. The Galactic Federation characters. I believe they add to the game experience. So I know everyone went on back and forth about Myles, Mackenzie. Oh my god. You know, people parroting because they don't know how to make their own, you know, opinion of, oh, it's MCU humor. No, that's not true. He is a bit clumsy in the intro. You meet him, and he's the first of the ones you meet. But after that, and going across a certain section, he just becomes just a regular NPC in one room. And that's it. That's all that happens. And the fact that he's there, he's actually probably the most relevant of all of the Galactic Federation characters you meet on your journey, because of where you are, who Samus is, and how she gets her upgrades. He's integral to that. And I like that they add that layer to it. I've always been interested in the Galactic Federation in general. They always felt like, especially in really just Prime in general, I always felt like they wanted to emphasize them more, add them more to the story, but they would just be in early bits, and then that's it. Back to Samus being super alone. The vast majority of this game, Samus is very much alone. But when the characters are with you, it's cool to have the extra dynamic, you know, that you're not just the only person on this foreign planet. You know, I did hear some of their banter here and there, and they don't really overstay their welcome for me. Got some characters who are like your typical, I'm a drifter, sniper person, you know, and I have my own belief system. And you have the one chick who's like unsure of herself, and she kind of fangirls about Samus, which is funny in the sense, I know that may not be everyone's cup of tea, but I found it entertaining. And Sam just kind of looking like, okay, ... So that, I think that contrast is entertaining to me for sure. So yeah, I do enjoy the characters they add to the experience. Are they the most deep, well-developed, fleshed out characters of all time? No. But do I feel that they are kind of a thorn in my side when going through the game? No, as well. So yeah, they're cool. I'm glad the Galactic Federation characters are here, and I hope to see more of them in the future. Okay, Viola motorcycle is very fun. That was something I definitely, like, based on the trailers, I thought it looked cool, because, well, one, cool characters riding motorcycles is an automatic win. Like, come on, like, are you anti-fun? Like, it just look cool. And it's not her ship, but it's a motorcycle, and she can, you know, shoot weapons and stuff out of it with her psychic abilities. That's pretty dope to me. I love that. That's really cool. And I played, so you pretty much use the motorcycle in the central hub area, Soul Valley. We'll get to that later as well. But overall, you mainly use it there, and then you'll use it to kind of drive to the next area of each biome or whichever, and you'll kind of drive into the beginning part to some of them, and then you'll hop off and then proceed through the area. But yeah, it controls really well. You use your same button you'd use for your power beam to accelerate. Some areas you have like a speed limiter, which is interesting. They did that. I find it kind of cool. It kind of adds a whole thing of like, not so much as you can't go as fast as you want, but the Lamorn designed it to be like, when you're in specific areas, we kind of want the vehicle to not go stupid fast, which is neat. It's interesting little detail. I think one thing some may not have known about the Viola motorcycle, as far as, if you find it a bit unwieldy or anything like that, you don't necessarily need to hold the acceleration button to like move forward. You can actually hold the control stick forward and you'll like slowly go forward. Like, and I kind of found it out later when I was kind of doing the item expansion cleanup, trying to 100% everything. Yeah, you can do that and you'll go slower. It's a bit slower than your speed limited mode, but I think it's, I think it's good for if you want to make those smaller adjustments when turning, or if you're, you hold down the left trigger and you'll kind of do the burnout and do a 180 with the front wheel and everything. So I think that's cool. But yeah, it plays really well, especially when you're riding around the desert and you have the enemies riding around you and you have to like boost and do the wheelie and a Kier slide, destroy them. That's cool. That was actually more fun than I expected. And there's another part of the game when pretty much when you first get it, but you have to go through some trials with it. I honestly wished there was like an additional part of that too, which is all, I mean, it's out of place for Metroid Prime, but I liked it so much. It kind of gave me like, Extreme G vibes from back in the day on Nintendo 64. Shout out to y'all, shout out to Acclaim, that no ball from back in the day. But yeah, so yeah, I'm a plus on the Viola bike itself. I thought it was a good, if there was any vehicle to use that's not necessarily her ship itself to traverse any area in the game, I think a bike is a great choice. And it also emphasizes, she's alone the vast majority of her journey. So motorcycle's big, solo vehicle. Outside if you want to have someone riding on the back, but that didn't happen at all here. And the last thing I'll say on the good portion is the areas are pretty interesting to go through. And when you do your scans, they are pretty straightforward, but they do add to, what the Lamorn was trying to accomplish on this planet as far as a species, a race. You'll get your typical logbooks. They're not as like silly or kind of entertaining as like the space pirates in Metroid Prime 1 or some of the other things for the Luminoth in Metroid Prime 2. But I think for what they're trying to do, it's interesting and kind of see what they're trying to accomplish there too. So I always enjoy those. I'm definitely the type to scan everything in my first playthrough of Metroid Prime. So I try and scan it all and get 100% scan completion, which I think this game is the easiest to do so. Don't rush through the prologue. On Tanamar, do not rush through the prologue. Scan everything, because if you don't get everything, you will not have 100% in the game. I'll just tell you that much. Scan everything, especially the yellow highlighted items. Get the yellow highlighted items. Scan those. It's very critical. But yeah, overall, those are my pluses for the game. Now, here we go. Everyone's waiting, rubbing their hands. Birdman, like, yeah, it's time to get angry. It's time to get, the Metroid Prime fall off. No, I don't think it's a fall off. But these are places that I think could be improved. So let's get it out of the way. The first thing, each area being separate instead of an interconnected world, similar to the first two Primes. Prime 3 is a bit different. I'll get to that in a second. But I do think it's a step down in the world design. Now, I don't know if they wanted to do this because they realized the open world idea, which they kind of, you can tell that with Soul Valley, they kind of were tinkering with it. I don't know if it just didn't work out for them 100% through, but looking at it, yeah, I would say just step down, just because not so much as they went with this design choice, but each area is very linear. Like, it's very beautiful, and to look at, the music is enthralling, the music is immersive and it gets you in the mood of what is going on for that type of specific area. But like, it is kind of surprising how linear these sections were. Now, granted, even with some of these linear sections, they did hide the expansions pretty well, or either that or I'm blind. I wear glasses, so that's probably likely. But yeah, it's definitely not as good as the other ones, man. Like, that's really all it is. like they kind of took a pre Breath of the Wild 3D Legend of Zelda design of like hub in middle, and then connected dungeon areas in up, down, left, right, or bomb right, or whatever from that middle area. And it's fine, but I do miss the full interconnected world. I mean, I still enjoyed going through them, but yeah, I think if they're trying to, I think they tried to do this because I think they really wanted people to play and finish this Metroid Prime game. Because I'll be honest, after the Metroid Prime Remastered released on the Switch 1 in 2023, it kind of, exposed a lot of people. Y'all don't be beating these games. Like, it's clear. And it's not even the old Nintendo doesn't make it available on their popular systems often enough. Hey man, I see how some of y'all be on social media. I see some of y'all loving how you pirating the games, but you ain't playing Metroid Prime games. But I digress. It's not this type of video. But yeah, so I think they kind of made things more linear to appeal to both a newer audience in a sense, and allow people to not get lost as much. Because I will admit, like, the early parts of some of the old games, not so much as Prime 3. Prime 3, they kind of railroaded you in once you got to Norian as well in the very beginning. I'll keep it a buck. Now, when you come back there later, it's a little different, but still. Yeah, so overall, I think, yeah, next time they get another Metroid Prime game out, hopefully they kind of find a happier medium with these. If they're going to go for this route again, at least have those dungeons kind of have them connect in a way. I don't know, be more like Banjo-Tooie. Maybe not that big though, but be more like Banjo-Tooie. Have them all be their own worlds, but also have ways to connect organically to other places without just being, some teleporter or something like that. Or you need a light suit to take these light beams to go from point A to point B to point C. So yeah, some of the voice acting direction for the Galactic Federation troops is a bit of a mixed bag. Not so much as like it's terrible, but I can kind of tell with one or two characters, it seems like they read their lines in a disjointed manner, and I don't know if it's just the direction they're going for that seemed, a bit different, but I think it could be a little better. I wouldn't say it's terrible. I'm not really a voice acting snob like that, but I would say, I would think they should get a, kind of a redo, or kind of have it tested with other people who listen and see how they can improve how organic and natural it can sound when talking with a character like Samus who does not talk at all. So they should definitely improve from that. Now, I know some people also kind of talked about this regarding like Myles Mackenzie being the tutorial character, and in some aspects he definitely is. So in anyone that's played a Metroid Prime game in the past, if you are wandering around for a certain amount of time, the hint system will pop up on the top, and it'll usually just be like a little chime that pops off, and if you press the menu and go to the map, it'll kind of automatically point into what area you should go to. This game does that in a sense. You can turn off tutorials in the menu itself, but it doesn't necessarily turn off that frequency of sometimes Myles will chime in when you're in Soul Valley, and it didn't really bother me to make me think, oh, this game sucks or break immersions or whatever. But it was more like, yeah, I think they could have had a better balance of how often that pops up. Now, one thing I will say that definitely was like, man, they definitely should have QA'd this a bit more. Just about every time, especially I noticed this when I was doing the cleanup at the end of the game, getting all the items. Every time you leave one of the main dungeon or the main areas like Fury Green and you go back into Soul Valley, as soon as you emerge into Soul Valley, Myles will pop up and be all like, oh, hey, do you have everything? You should probably go here. And it's like, you don't have to do that. Like, let me be out in the desert for a bit. Just let me be out there for a bit. The desert isn't even that huge. It's not even that huge to go through, so it's very reasonable. It doesn't feel too large for the speed of the motorcycle. So I think they really just need to find a better balance for it overall. And the last final thing I would say for the negative, Soul Valley could have more going on even as a desert. So let's be honest. Deserts and desert biomes, I would say in just mostly 3D games. 2D games, you could get away with it because you're really only going left to right or up to down in one plane. So you don't have to kind of engage in like the z-axis of a desert, of being mostly, you know, dunes and vast amounts of sand, basically. But I think they should have had a bit more going on in the desert overall. Think of the desert like Ocarina of Time Hyrule Field, but it's mostly hilly or duny, and you have some Lamorn statues where you can kind of use your psychic ability to go underground in like a tiny little 2-3 room dungeon area and get an upgrade, or you know, get some crystals and things like that, the green crystals. And I mean, I think that's fine, but I feel like they should have had a few more different structures out in the desert. Not so much as where when you're riding on the motorcycle you suddenly just crash in between everything. And I'm not saying it should become like a Fortnite map where it just has a mishmash of stuff lying around. I think it just had, you know, show that, you know, maybe the Lamorn did have some form of living out there, like some other structures besides that big old tower that's just in the distance you always see. So I think they could have more go on the desert. I don't necessarily hate the idea of the desert per se. And one thing I'll say for at least some of the design of the desert, I know this is the negative part, but I do want to add this as a little positive for me. I think they designed how the perspective of Samus riding on the motorcycle and us, the player, in that third person perspective, because it's all third person, it's not first person motorcycle riding, that'd be kind of crazy. But the way it's designed, they do kind of hide some of those statues and whatnot in a way to where you'd have to really go and kind of ride out to really see them. Because there were some places I completely missed, and I could have gotten an upgrade like 10 hours earlier. And that was just because I just didn't go out in that direction. So I feel like, yeah, they could add a bit more for that, but you know, it's not a bad idea on paper. I think just the execution could have been stronger. So yeah. And okay, the final section, which is going to be the mix part, and this is the part where I said to listen to the end, because I want you to hear me out. Hear me out. So, the final fetch quest to get to the last part of the game, or usually the part that should be most people's last part of the game, is the Green Crystal fetch quest. Alright, so I think the Green Crystal fetch quest is both good and bad. Hear me out. Don't close out of the video yet. Hear me out. I'm serious. Hear me out. So the reason why I say it can be good is because compared to some of the other Metroid Prime games, specifically 1 and 2 to some aspect, you typically would need to get either 1 or 2 upgrades to obtain some of the keys needed. Because in Prime 1 you'll need like the Chozo keys to get to the final section, to get to the final boss. In Metroid Prime 2 Echoes, you'll need the dark keys to get access to the final Ing area and fight the boss there. And to do that, some of those games you need specific like visors, or you'll need specific moves to blow things up to get to it, and you can do some of them out of order. But I think in this game they already established the green crystals early on. It's literally in a section before you get to like one of the main temples in the first area of Fury Green. And it says, you know, you have to feed them to this memory fruit. And when you do that to the memory fruit, it adds to like this tree. This tree you see high up that's in that area. It represents like not just, you know, the Lamorn people, but it represents a bunch of life and things of that nature. So that's something you have to work towards throughout the game. Now the way it's designed, despite it being in a Legend of Zelda thing where there's hub in the middle and 3, 4, 5 different dungeon areas that are on their own, you will still have to come back to Fury Green and come across that room, or at least go through it a few times throughout your gameplay. And I know this probably is the opposite of how many speedrunners want to play, but I think the fact that you can just kind of progress to that towards the entire journey, I think that's a net positive. I think that's better than having to force all the things at the very last part of the game, and where you're like, okay, yeah, I know I'm kind of getting all my expansions, but I have to go here and there and elsewhere. I have to go through these puzzles things, that, and the other. I think it's good that you can work towards it. Now, I say it's bad because, or it's also bad because the execution of that thought process of we want to stretch out the final fetch quest throughout, like, I'd say roughly 80-85% of the game as you're going through each area and the routes they want you to go. Smashing into green crystals in the desert on a motorcycle is a lot of different things that it's not going to jive with everyone. I'm going to be honest. It's not going to jive with everyone. It's too many, like, almost caveats or asterisks to the Metroid Prime experience. It's like, okay, I'm on a motorcycle. Do you like the motorcycle? Yes or no? If you do like it, okay. Do you like the desert? Yes or no? Most people are going to say no. So, and then after that, it's like, okay, well, too bad. You have to hit these green crystals. And there's a lot of them spread out. And like I said earlier, where the desert design of the dunes, you can kind of miss some parts of it due to how the dunes are elevated in respect to other dunes, and vice versa. Some you might be lower than higher dunes. It can really be a mixed bag for many people. So I feel like on paper, again, I hate to use this on paper thing. It's like a band-aid, but like on paper, I think what they're going for was an honest, good idea. And I feel like in a Metroid Prime 5, they could improve on this idea, or maybe, have some of, if they want you to collect a certain amount of a thing, have it, something you collect in the dungeon areas too, or the worlds, or whichever. But yeah, I will admit it is not the most engaging mechanic in an open world type of game, or not even open world, just in the game in general. So I think Retro will understand this. I'm sure they're all kind of been mulling over the past month of, internet reviews, criticism, and being like, geez, guys. But I think they'll take that to heart. And I don't think that this game is not going to get a follow-up or anything like that. Yeah, so that's pretty much what I think. So it's a lot of different caveats, a lot of asterisks to get on board with this new way of a fetch quest. And there's technically three objectives in the game, which, I'm not going to go into deep all of them because they're kind of spoilery in a sense. Well, two of them are, but yeah, so I'm not going to go too deep into it like that. With all that said, overall, I did still very much enjoy Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. Like, I still like the gameplay and everything. The worlds, while looking at them, are still very beautiful. It did, the worlds are linear, but I did find some enjoyment finding some of those abilities. Some that I kind of went past and was like, oh, that's a bit odd. How did that happen? So that's a bit strange. Yeah, the Galactic Federation being more engaged in the story, I think that adds to the experience, and it's something that I think will help Metroid Prime in the long run as far as getting new people to hop into the series, because Metroid kind of stays in this lane of like niche, not as popular, but still for those that play, it's highly regarded in Nintendo's like his first party titles. Hasn't really popped off in a major way like Mario and Zelda, Kirby recently, and Fire Emblem in the past decade roughly. So actually 14 years ever since Fire Emblem Awakening came out. But yeah, some of the negatives will definitely detract for some, especially for the Metroid purists. There's a very particular bunch, I understand. So, but I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic that this won't be the end of Retro Studios. This won't be the end of Metroid Prime as a series in itself. But I do think that, we will get a Metroid Prime 5. I'm hoping it's in this decade, like by no later than 2029, 2030, something like that. But I do think this Retro Studios team is fully staffed now. We don't have a development reboot like what we saw with Prime 4 back in 2017 to 2019. We're not going to have a change of entire teams with that transition. And also, this was a Switch 1 game to begin with. So we have a Switch 2 way stronger system. Probably the biggest leap since like Nintendo 64 to Nintendo GameCube. So we're eating real good over here as far as that's concerned. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the whole game. I know this went on a bit long, but you know, it's just kind of a new thing I want to try on the channel as far as certain games I beat. This won't be part of my backlog hunter series at all, but I wanted to get this out as like something I'm kind of thinking about and overall. So yeah, so if you made it to the end of the video, thank you. I know I was yapping, but let me know, did you play Metroid Prime 4? Have you played it and beat it? If so, what'd you think of it? Did you play it at least and, you know, put it down? Or did you, quit it? If you did, let me know where it was. And, I'm always in the comments talking with you. I'm kind of an old school YouTuber in that aspect. But yeah, thank you all for watching or listening if you kind of took this as a podcast approach. And like, comment, subscribe for more content. And more videos on gameplay, tech, all sorts of enthusiast type gaming things. So take it easy. Until next time, peace out.